Hey, working moms, it's common for you to experience what is known as the 7-year itch. No, I'm not talking about your marriage. I'm talking about the season of your life when things are sort of humming along, but they feel a little bit stagnant. It's the time when things are fine, but not great. When the 7-year itch comes along, it's not necessarily a time to change careers or do anything drastic in your life, though for some that might be true. Instead, it's a time to opt back into the life that you've created, to love your life all over again and find all of the amazing and wonderful and spicy things about your life that bring you joy. Today in the podcast, I'm talking about 5 areas of life you need to go all in on if you are experiencing the sort of life is just fine kind of 7-year itch. I'll share with you some of my experiences with the 7-year itch and walk you through exactly how to reframe this season so that you start waking up again with a smile on your face. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hey friends, before we get into today's episode, I want to let you in on a little secret. My Black Friday holiday special is ready early. I've never before offered anything like this, and I was so excited to get it into your hands, I had to open it up immediately. It's called Voxer Coaching. Essentially, it will be like you having me as your coach in your back pocket to offer support, answer questions, give guidance and strategies, all individualized and when you need it. It's on-demand coaching through an app called Voxer. And when you sign up, you'll have access to me for a whole month. And here's the best part. The price is only $3.99. Yep, it's my lowest offer ever. Here's how it works. After you sign up, you will be directed to download the Voxer app. You'll send me a quick message and we'll start our conversation with a discussion around your 2025 goals. What do you want to be different next year? What do you want to focus on? What would a successful 2025 look like to you? Together, we'll answer these questions and then spend the next month creating a plan for how you're going to achieve it. You can message me every day when you feel stuck or you need help through a challenging situation, and I will be there to coach you and offer tools to make sure you keep moving forward. There's a limited amount of spots at this low price of $399. So if you want me in your back pocket supporting you for a whole month toward your 2025 goals, stop right now and click on the link in the show notes to sign up. This is going to be so fun. I cannot wait to support you through the holidays and into 2025. Are you ready? I am too. All right, working moms, let's get into the next episode. Hello, working moms. It is exciting to be here with you today. We're in the middle of the holiday season, and I think this podcast episode is actually going to be really impactful for you, particularly because of the season. At the time that I'm writing this podcast, Halloween has just passed. Literally, it was this past weekend. And the Halloween weekend for us was really, really busy, but it was also really memorable. And as I think back over what we did, the friends that we saw, the friends that we had over, the barbecue that we had, the parties that we went to, it really brings this smile to my face. I think of the effort that my daughter put into her makeup and her whole costume this year. And I think about my son who for the first time actually wore his costume to school for the Halloween parade, which he has never done before. And I look back and I just smile at these good memories. And as a working mom coach, this is the experience that I want for you, for all of my clients. I want you to look back at Halloween and not just remember the exhaustion, but the memories and how it felt to create this sort of experience with your kids and for your kids. And then I want you to look at the rest of the holiday season and not just push through to the other side, but actually enjoy it, to relish in all of the memories and the moments that you're creating with them. And here's why I think this is the perfect time for this podcast episode today, because today we're talking about the 7-year itch. Now, oftentimes the 7-year itch is talked about in relation to your marriage, right? Your partnership. And studies show that after about 7 years, a lot of couples sort of get antsy in their marriage and they feel dissatisfied and things sort of feel stale. Now, of course, some couples, this could be a little bit earlier, or for others, it could be a little bit later in their relationship. But every relationship over time eventually requires some level of recommitment. Now, of course, I'm not a relationship coach, though, of course, the subject of marriage comes up a lot with my clients. So, we're not talking about the 7 year itch as it relates to your marriage. We're talking about it as it relates to your life. What I have observed in my own life and in the life of my friends and my clients is that there comes a time when you need to commit back into the life that you are living, the life that you have chosen, the life you're creating. Because otherwise, life feels sort of rinse and repeat, right? You get up every day, you feel the same stressed out thoughts, you do the same routines, your time feels constricted in the same way that it always does, and you go to the same job and do the same things. And now, because you're sort of mid level in your career, you've been doing it for a while. So there's this sort of stagnation that comes with that. For me, my kids are 7 and 10, and there's this rinse and repeat sort of experience with elementary school and the after school commitments and the sports and the activities and the homework. It all feels very redundant. And who wants to live a redundant life, a rinse and repeat life, right? I know it's not me and it's none of you here. You are all ambitious women that at least one point had really big, lofty career goals and desires for your life. And so for many of you, I know that having kids has felt sort of like a setback to some of those goals. And it probably hasn't happened all at once. It's sort of been this gradual dissatisfaction with life and a stagnation that comes with it. But at some point, your brain is likely going to offer to you, is this really it? Is this really what life is all about? Isn't there more? And for most women, these questions happen at the onset of motherhood. And if they don't get addressed then, or even if they did for that matter, now 5, 7, 10 years later, after you start having kids, right, your brain is experiencing this itch. It wants to sort of know, is this still the life that you want to be leading? Now, I have been experiencing the 7 year itch sort of right now in my life, which is where this idea of the podcast came from. Because as I started to think about the signs in my life where that sort of 7 year itch came from, it started making me think of a lot of other clients that have gone through similar versions of this themselves. And some of the symptoms that I think are most noticeable, and again, we're going to equate this back to marriage because I think it's easier for a lot of our brains to understand the symptoms of the 7 year itch in your life. It's often associated with the first one really being dissatisfaction in your career, this feeling of stagnation, like that rinse and repeat, wake up to the same thing, not really sure like the career trajectory, what the next promotion is for you, right? Causing this sense of dissatisfaction. That's a big one for a lot of working moms that I see that is a sign of the 7 year itch. Another one that I notice is this sort of desperate need, this waiting around for vacations or breaks, sometimes even just the evenings or the weekends, right? Maybe you just watch the clock, just waiting for that time. You just can't wait to get out of your life and into like a break for a moment, right? That's a sign that you're in the middle of a 7 year itch. Another one is when you just can't wait for your kids to get to sleep at night. And there's this bitterness or resentfulness that comes when it takes them a while. Now, of course, I'm not saying it's okay to want your kids to go to sleep so that you can have, the rest of your evening or get to bed or whatever it is. I'm just saying if that's like your everyday experience where you just can't wait to get them in bed and like finally be by yourself, there's likely some level of a need for recommitment back into the life that you're leading, right? That there's a 7 year itch involved in that. And then the last one is a symptom of being in the 7 year itch is when you look at your calendar and all you see is really obligation, right? There's not much in your calendar that excites you. It's sort of categorized by a feeling like, life is fine. When someone asks you how you're doing and you find yourself saying, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm not great. I'm not terrible. Life is just fine." That is a symptom that shows us that you are likely experiencing some form of the 7 year itch. And it is a moment where you need to recommit and fall back in love again with your life. You don't want life to be fine. You don't want to just kind of grit and bear it through life and through your kids' younger years or through the middle of your career for that matter. You want to be all in. You want to wake up every day and love your life and feel grateful without any effort. You don't want to get to your kids' high school graduation and look back and wonder if you did things right, right? You want to lean in when you need to and lean out when you need to and feel really good about that. You want a life without any regrets. I know that you want that because you are the movers and the shakers. You are the doers. You are the get things done. You are women with vision that has so many ideas. And right now, when career opportunities are at its highest, that almost maybe they'll ever be in your career, right? And your kids are also at an age where they need you the most and that they crave your presence more than they ever will. And at the same time, your life experience has taught you the most. And so you bring the most to the table. This is not the time for stagnation. This is not the time to just be fine. This is the time you want to be all in. And I want you to experience that spicy, sexy, I love my life kind of feelings. You recently heard an episode from one of my past clients, Stephanie, just a couple weeks ago here on the podcast. And what she said, it just amazes me every time I hear this. She said, like, the outside of her life almost looks exactly the same from when she started coaching with me. Same job, same family dynamics, same commitments, all on the outside. Not much has changed, but she feels entirely different about her life. Her life feels chosen. It feels meaningful. It feels aligned with her bigger goals and values. And what I want to offer to you that for my clients, that's true of about 75% of them. 75% of them, 3 out of 4 actually don't need a big change in their life in order to love their life again. They need to instead change the way they're thinking about their life. They need to recommit back into the life they have and see all the joy and wonderful things that are in it. Now, of course, that means 1 out of 4 actually do want that change and want to go through the process of a career change or a job change or a company change, or they want to go off and do their own thing, or they want to be a stay-at-home mom. That's great. But for the majority of them, what they need to get through this 7-year itch is a commitment back into the life that they created and that they love and that they wouldn't trade for the world. And this idea that when you experience the 7-year itch in your marriage, assuming that there's not abuse or neglect or something big going on like that. So assuming that this is just a normal marriage that has gotten stagnant, right? That has lost its kind of spice, if you will. The solution isn't to leave each other or to get a divorce. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of your particular marriage and partnership. There could be very legitimate reasons for that, so we're just not going into that right now. But the reality is that for a good portion of you that are feeling stagnant in your marriage, it's not actually that you want to divorce this person, that you want to be out of the marriage. It's that you want to rekindle the love and the commitment again, right? You want to build up that spicy feeling again in the marriage, right? That isn't something that your partner does. It's something that you do from the way that you think about your life and the way you choose to feel in your life, just as it's the same way you choose to commit back into the marriage and how you choose to engage and what you choose to think about and how you choose to feel about your partner. And the same is true here for your life, right? You likely don't need a big career change to quit, to pull back, or do something drastic in your life to rekindle the love and the enjoyment and the fun. Instead, you need to intentionally do the work to opt back in, to see life through the lens of joy and connection and love. So I want to share with you 5 areas of life that if you are experiencing the itch, you likely need to rekindle that commitment, that love in, okay? The first one is the most obvious. It's your job. If you have a demanding job and you work full time, you spend more time working during your week than you spend with your family. And you want that time that you spend working to feel good. It needs to be meaningful. You need to wake up and enjoy the work that you do. Ambitious women, you can't just clock in and clock out. That just creates more stagnation, right? You need to rekindle a love for your job. I had a client recently that has been in her career about 15 years or so, and she has been experiencing this itch, right? It's been kind of a slow grow for a while. And by the time we started working together, as she got honest with herself, what she was telling me is that she didn't really want things to stay the same. She wanted to be more challenged in her job, and she couldn't really imagine herself continuing to do exactly the same thing for maybe another year tops, right? So we did a lot of deep diving into who she was and the things that really brought her joy and the things that were meaningful to her. We took time to think about all of her options, knowing that her family needed the income, that she wanted to work, that she didn't want to like drop in title at all. So under all of those circumstances, we talked about her options. And simultaneously, we also talked about the things that she loved in her career and in her job and in her workplace. We talked about the kinds of projects and clients that really brought her a lot of life. And every day she started to take note of the things that brought her energy, the things that brought her enjoyment, the things that brought her a smile in her workday. And she would even take time at the end of her day to kind of write down the things that she was most proud of, the things that she accomplished, the things that she felt satisfied in. And sure enough, when we got to that point of making a decision about what she really wanted to do with her career and what some of those next steps were, she actually decided she didn't really want to leave. She was exactly where she wanted to be. She just wanted a few more growth opportunities. She wanted to be challenged, but she wanted to do that right there in her company and in her line of work. And it was because we had spent so much time reflecting on the things that actually brought her joy instead of focusing on the things that did not, that she was able to rekindle that commitment back into the work that she did and realize that she was actually in the place that she wanted to be. She didn't need the change that she thought she needed. And her story is not uncommon for my clients. If you schedule a breakthrough call with me and we get on that consultation and you talk to me about your feelings of feeling dissatisfied at your job and wondering if you want to change jobs and feeling really stuck, in coaching, I'm going to help you systematically think through your options and figure out what would be really best for you, while at the same time helping you to love your current job. Remember, your brain has a negative bias. It's always thinking about the things that you want to do differently, the things that are frustrating, the things that aren't good in your life, right? It's your job to redirect those thoughts and intentionally spend time thinking about and falling back in love with what you do. Questions that you can answer to try to help cultivate this sense of love and kind of get back to that spicy feeling of loving your job and waking up with a smile on your face. Things like, what do I love about this job? What am I really good at? How does this job fit into my future goals? Why do I want to stay at this job? What would I be sad at if I left this job? How does this job serve me? How does it serve my family? Right? These are just questions that kind of help remind your brain of all of the good, all of the things that bring you life, all of the reasons why you choose to still be there. Right? So that's the first area of life that you need to fall back in love with. It's the biggest one out of all of them. The second one, though, is motherhood. Now, for most of you, or all of you really, I would imagine you would tell me that you love being a mom, right? You're so glad that you chose to have kids. You don't regret it at all. But kids get complicated as they get older. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of energy. They take a lot of emotion. They take a lot of your mental space. But before you had kids, that time and energy and mental space just went right back into yourself and into your friends. And now you choose, of course, to spend that extra time and energy in your family. And you do that because you're a great mom. But I have found motherhood for myself, at least, to be quite repetitive. There's a lot of routines in the everyday life with kids. And there sort of has to be ever since they're born, right? Because kids thrive in routines. Humans thrive in routines. But routines are sort of boring. They're repetitive. They make you kind of feel stagnant in life, right? And the regular meltdowns that my kids have over the silliest of things, they're exhausting, and they're exhausting to have them happen repetitively over and over and over again in everyday life. So for me and for you, if you're experiencing this 7-year itch, is that you need to recommit back into loving your life as a mom, even these meltdown moments, right? I have to remember how much I love my kids and why I want to raise these humans up, and how, if they're ever going to be wonderful, kind, generous human beings, all the things that I want them to be, they're going to have to go through hard moments, and I'm going to have to walk them through that, right? I feel committed though, because I think about their meltdowns in that way. Right? I also want you to focus on all of the joyful moments, remembering the moments that they sleep at exactly the time that you want them to sleep, or how they comply the very first time you ask them to do something instead of waiting till the 5th or the 6th or the 10th time to ask. You need to recommit back into the life of motherhood that is good, and all of the reasons why you love being a mom, and the commitments and the routines and how they serve you, and why they're actually the best thing for you and your family. So that is the second area of recommitment in your all-in life. Now, the third one that you need to commit back into and cultivate all of those wonderful feelings of joy and love and connection is your marriage. In my group coaching program, Ambitious and Balanced, we recently had a conversation about marriage and particularly how the women in the group were struggling with sort of uneven distribution of work in their household and how there was resentment and frustration at their partners because of this. And I walked them through what would be required of them to have a much more equitable marriage and to share more of the mental load. And I could tell you the first step that I offered to them. Here's what it is. It's to get on the same team as your spouse. You have to get on the same team. You have to notice how you are fighting for the same things, how you all want the same things. You want the same things for your family and for your marriage. You both want to be happy in your marriage. You both want successful careers. You both want a family where you're giving opportunities to your kids. You both want a household that probably runs smoothly. You both want kids that are kind, are successful, that have interests that they fall in love with. However you need to think about it, the first step is to get back on the same team. It's not you against them. It's together, you as the same team against the problem, against the priorities that need to be shifted, and against all of the various tasks that have to get done for the household, right? So you have to remember that you choose to be on the same team. Now, I've been married to the most amazing and wonderful man, Daryl, for 17 years now. And I remember a season when I was experiencing this itch in our marriage, right? And my mind was focused on all the things he wasn't doing and the way he wasn't supporting me and the family and how I wanted. And I remember feeling very disconnected to him, like not feeling excited to get home to see him. And I can share all of that with you without any shame because not only have we navigated that season, but I have found that season to be very normal in a marriage, right? It doesn't mean that the marriage is bad or failing or something's terribly wrong. It's a season that indicates that you need to recommit back into it. And I remember one of the things I did during that time, I would journal many nights a week. I would just journal about all the things that I loved about my husband. And I'm going to be honest, some of those times it took a while for me to get a couple of things down, but I was diligent about it. I was focusing my mind on what I loved about him, and I was shifting my energy towards him. And I also committed to sending him a text every day, telling him about one of those things that I loved, something that I appreciated about him every single day. I even told him that that's what I was doing. I said, I'm committed to telling you this, and I'm going to do it via text every single day at like 11 o'clock. That's when I'm going to do it, right? That might sound silly. It might sound kind of contrived. I think that's the word, like forced, but it wasn't forced. It was coming from a genuine place. I just needed to be in a rhythm and a habit of remembering and communicating all the things that I absolutely adored about my husband. A personal fear of mine was that my kids would graduate from high school and I would be in this marriage with somebody that I didn't want to be in a marriage with anymore. That I was sort of a stranger to me. Like that thought really scares me. And so now my kids are 7 and 10, and I can easily see how this might happen in a marriage, right? Our lives right now are more kid-centric than they ever have been before. And it is not easy to go on dates and to be intentional in our conversation and to be intimate together. It's not easy. But that is the kind of marriage I want in the long term. And so I put effort into loving him, to being on the same team with him, to acknowledging all the things that he's doing well, and to write about how meaningful he is to me on occasion, right? That's important to me. I'm committing back into that. The fourth area of life that you need to commit back into and create a bunch of love and wonderful feelings about is your greater impact. Now, look, I call this podcast The Ambitious and Balanced Working Moms. And that's because you're the kind of woman that is all in on your career, whose identity has been at least sort of wrapped up in your career success. You're driven, you're goal focused, you're good at what you do. And so the word I've chosen to describe you, is ambitious. And what I have found that comes along with ambitious is it's that the things that you choose to do, it's not about how many things you choose to do. It's that the things that you choose to do have an impact in the world, right? It's not about clocking in and clocking out. That's like your worst nightmare as an ambitious person. It's about doing things that make a difference. A meaningful, fulfilling career is really important to you. The challenge is, if you're midway in your career, you probably don't see things in the same way anymore. You don't see the things that you do as meaningful. They've sort of become routine. And so over time, you just go into work, you do what you do. It has a significant impact, but you don't feel that impact anymore because you yourself don't think about the work that you do as being impactful. But you are making a huge impact in the work that you do, in the direct work that you do, in the people that you work with, in the subset of people that you work with, like your clients or your vendors or those types of things, in anyone that you touch at work, you are having influence over. You are making an impact. You are also making an impact in your kid's life. And there is a ripple effect to them because they are turning out to be amazing humans who are going to make an impact in other humans' lives because of you, because of what you're doing as a parent. You are affecting the next generation in a positive way. And beyond that presence, if you think about the little ways that you show up, your impact is in the smile that you give the person at Starbucks or the homeless person on the street, or the transparency of how you show up to other parents when you drop your kid off at daycare or preschool or regular school or whatever. It has a real impact on them just because you're you. And the impact that you're having today might not look like the impact that you had before kids, and that's okay. You are still making a significant impact in the world. It's your job to direct your mind in how that is true. I want you to literally answer that question. How am I making a significant impact in the world? And if that question is hard for you to answer, start with, how am I just making a little bit of a difference today? Just in little ways. And then once you answer that, then you can say, well, how might that little thing actually have a really big ripple effect? You are valuable, you are significant, and your impact is vast and great. The world would experience a loss without you. That's what I believe. I was talking to a client recently who we had developed a purpose statement for them. For all of my clients, that's one of the exercises I walk you through, is developing a purpose statement, is kind of understanding your why in this world, how significant that is. And she's not alone in this. A lot of women that go through this kind of exercise, we get to the end statement and they go, well, that doesn't feel like a big deal. And I say, I know it doesn't feel like a big deal because it's just the way you show up. It's just who you are. And you don't see it as impactful because it just feels so natural to you. But then I pushed her a little bit. I said, but tell me, what would happen if nobody in your team, nobody in your company was like you, was like this? They were all like this other type of person that we have talked about before. And she was like, oh my gosh, nothing would ever get done. Everybody would be talking about emotions all of the time. And she kind of went on and on. This other person is amazing. She loves them. They're very compassionate. They help people through their emotions, but she's somebody that gets things done. And there's a real impact to that. And I had to push her to really see how impactful she is being on her team, on her coworkers, and then on the company, right? You have to direct your thoughts to that. You have to push your brain to see the ripple effect of the work that you do and the impact that you're making. It's important for you as an ambitious person. Now, the last area of life that needs intentionality, where you got to come back, you got to fall in love again, it's with who you are, because you are amazing. Who you are at a deep down core level is significant, not because of the work that you do or the things that you volunteer at. It's just because you're you. You being you is amazing. One of the core exercises I walk my clients through, I just talked about the purpose statement, but another one is called embracing your identity. And through that exercise, I have you name what I like to call your essence. That is like when you walk into a room and you make an impact on the people around you. What is that impact? It's not because you did anything or even said anything. All you do is you walk in a room and people experience something from you just because you're you. And that experience is impactful. It's your superpower. It is what makes you unique. It is what makes you special. If you want to love your life again and feel that sense of commitment and satisfaction, you need to spend more time thinking about how amazing you are instead of how you're letting people down, instead of how you're disappointing people. You need to develop a positive self-talk track in your head, literally a radio station that is all about how amazing and wonderful and valuable and good you are. It takes practice. It takes repetition. It doesn't come naturally. It takes intentionality. And I know a lot of people, when I say that to them, they're like, well, I'm just supposed to think, if those things were true, then I would think them. And I want to offer to you, that's not true. It actually takes a lot of intentionality to think that those kinds of positive thoughts, because our brain has a negative bias, because we're stuck in old, negative thought patterns of sorts, loops. that sort of tear us down, right? And so we have to be intentional in building ourselves back up, in loving ourselves and going all into ourselves. Look, there are seasons of life that require you to intentionally opt back in, to rekindle commitment and love your life again. You could wait around and just hope that circumstances change in such a way that you love, that love comes easy, or you can intentionally be all in and just love your current life. If you're experiencing a 7-year itch, if you're experiencing a disconnect from life, life feels sort of ho-hum, it feels a little rinse and repeat, it feels sort of fine. I want to offer to you that's not a problem. It happens in seasons, it happens in cycles, and it's a moment where you get to decide to recommit back into the life that you have, into the life that you've created, into all the things that you love about your life, and sort of let go of that negative track that's telling you life isn't good enough and that there should be more. I promise when you do that, you will find more and more opportunities to open up into circumstances of life that bring you joy, that challenge you, that present opportunities for you. I am a coach for working moms, and I have a very unique process that will walk you through a rekindling of love for yourself and your life again. If change is required, if you truly do want to change careers or you want to pull back in some way or start a business, whatever you might want to do, if a big change is required, I'm going to help you navigate that season. We're going to do it very systematically so that whatever you decide to do, you feel all into it. It feels like exactly the thing that you are meant to do. It feels very proactive and intentional instead of reactive. Coming from a place of, well, I don't like my life. I'm dissatisfied in life, so I must need to change something. That's not where powerful decision-making comes from. Powerful decision-making comes from, I love my current life and I want something more. And I want something a little bit different. Right? So we're going to talk about what are those differences? What would be best for you? What aligns with your future goals, with your values, with your purpose? And at the same time, we're going to shift your mindset so you really love your life all over again. You fall back in love with who you are, your career, your marriage, being a mom, all the things that make your life amazing. I would love to walk you through that process. It starts with booking a free breakthrough call. Now, this is essentially a consultation call, a chance for us to strategically talk about the challenges that you're facing, to create a vision for the life that you really want, and to then map out a plan for exactly how you're going to get to that in coaching. I would love the opportunity to connect with you. You can do that by going to my website to get more information and to find a time in my calendar. You can go to RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com/book. All right, working moms, until next week, have a wonderful holiday week, whatever holiday season we're in right now as this episode comes out. And until next week, let's get to it. The next step to getting unstuck and having more days where you bounce out of bed feeling certain that you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, regaining your confidence, ending all of that negative chatter in your head, is to book a free breakthrough call. This is a strategy call where I will guide you through setting a vision for the life that you want to lead as a working mom, and then I'll lay out a plan for exactly how we will achieve that together through one-on-one coaching. You can book that call by going to RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com/book. All right, working moms, let's get to it.